Hello. Imagine the delight that Jacob felt when he was sent by both his dad and his mom, that is, Isaac and Rebekah, to go all the way out to Haran to look for his uncle Laban, who had daughters, and to find a daughter and marry her. And he arrived at the well just in time to see, wow, a beautiful girl. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, from Genesis 29, 6 to 10. He arrived at this well and asked them if they knew Laban. And the shepherds, or whoever they were around the well, said, "Yes, we do. And he is doing very well." So Jacob continued. He said, "Is he well?" And they said, "Yes, he is well. And behold, Rachel, his daughter, is coming with the sheep." And he said, that's Jacob, "Lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together. Water your sheep and go and feed them." There were 3 flocks of sheep lying there already, as we've already discovered. And he's wondering, why aren't they feeding the sheep from the well? And the people said, "We can't. Until all the flocks are gathered together, until they roll the stone from the well's mouth, then we water the sheep." And while he yet spoke with them, that's Jacob, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Well, I'm sure all the other sheep now drank from it too. So let's unpack this. Where we started was Jacob asked him, "Is he well?" That's the English interpretation. You know, in different languages, we say different things. And I know in German, for example, we often say, "Wie geht's, wie steht's?" You know, it's another way in English you say, "How are you?" etc. Different things are said in different languages. So in the Middle East, even now in the 21st century, instead of saying, "Is he well?" or "Is he doing okay?" they will actually say, "Is peace upon him?" or "Is peace unto him?" From this we get the common greeting of Shalom. And in Arabic they say Salam alaikum, which means, "I hope you're going to do well. I hope you're in peace." Their answer was, "Yes, he is well. He has peace." That's what it really says in Hebrew. He has peace. You see, they talk about peace because so many people, they have turmoil going on in their family. And you know what? The Middle East was no exception. Brother and sister turning against parents. And we've already read about some of that happening. Now, after they said, he is well, or he has peace, they said, and look, and behold, Rachel his daughter cometh with the sheep. Now that was put in there by Moses on purpose. Notice, and behold, Rachel. See, Moses is trying to give you a clue what's going on here before he gets into it. Behold, Rachel. Another wow moment. It reminds me of when Abraham's servant found Rebekah, the first woman he was to meet. It was going to be Isaac's wife, and she was beautiful. Jacob arrived just in time to meet his future wife, a daughter of none other than Laban, his mother's brother. That's verse 6. Now in verse 7, as we mentioned before, Jacob asked, what's holding up the line? What is holding up the line in allowing the sheep to drink? What's going on? Why can't they drink? But here in verse 8, they answered. What did they answer? We can't until the flocks be gathered together. Then we water the sheep. We can't, or we're not allowed. It's actually, they weren't allowed until all the sheep were gathered together. In verse 6, we read that Rachel came with the sheep. Well, you notice that wording, the sheep. They were her father's sheep, and those were the final sheep they were waiting for. Now, before we continue on and end this session, it should be noted that in verse 9, which we were just talking about, it says that Rachel kept the sheep. In other words, she was a shepherdess. Did you know that keeping sheep in those times and countries was an honorable employment, an honorable profession, and not beneath sons and daughters of great princes and leaders? Often this was an initiation. This was an internship. This was a preparation for leadership later on. Notice with David later on that's what happened. David, in dealing with bears and lions, later dealt with the enemies of Israel. Well, Rachel's name itself, do you realize Rachel or Rachel means female sheep or just sheep? Did you know that? Rachel's name meant sheep, or ewe, E-W-E, ewe means female sheep. See, from being occupied or from having that as a profession in keeping flocks, it is probable that her name was applied to her for that reason. Do you remember how I gave names of the people in Genesis to show what was going on? Well, that is an example. Rachel, keeper of sheep. So it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother. Moses really tried to stress He came for Laban, his mother's brother. He wanted to bring that home. He had to repeat it 3 times. So Jacob went near and rolled a stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Now, I want to remind you of something. By this time, Jacob was in his mid-70s. Now, I'm almost 70. And I hope I will be in the same kind of shape that Jacob was. My goodness. So, he was in his mid-70s and he rolled a stone off of the well. Wow. Mind you, after seeing Rachel, he did not wait for the shepherds to take the lead. It says Jacob went near. That means he stepped in. He went and did it. And rolled a stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban. Now he knew that those sheep were Laban's sheep. Now, do you realize watering them is done twice a day? Is a work of time and labor. And do you realize Jacob rendered a great service in volunteering his aid without being asked to that beautiful shepherdess? I don't know about you, but it definitely looked like love at first sight. You know, that is what it was as we go on in the story. And many people say, it's just a romantic idea. It actually isn't. My wife fell in love with me in love at first sight. Love at first sight is not impossible when God Himself gets involved and arranges things to happen. Folks, just wanted to remind you, trust God in everything you do and trust God for the results.